You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 14 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and as always, I'm with the fabulous Jeff Gargis. I am so excited for this episode because we have one of my favorite educators here with us today. But before we get into that, Jeff, how are you doing today?
Ray, I am absolutely fantastic. I'm super excited. Not only is it episode 14, which is awesome that we're 14 in, but like you said, we have one of our favorite educators on, an amazing educator with a career that spans a whole bunch, several different states, multiple different grade levels and subjects, and now expanded into a bunch of other things that she's doing with her career. Tiffany Ott. So she's been teaching for quite a while now. I think she's at 10 years or so. She can correct me with that, but she's gone grades from everywhere from 3rd grade all the way through 10th grade. She's taught math, science, reading, pretty much everything else you can think of. She currently is at Western Reserve Academy in beautiful Hudson, Ohio, where she works with a freshman math class, and she also works with students who need a little extra support as well. So she's getting her hands on a lot of different things over there and working with a variety of different students. And then a lot of you probably already know that she also spends pretty much the other half of her time working with us at the Teach Better team, and she does a crazy variety of things with us. So a lot of really cool stuff. I'm really excited to dive in and talk and chat with Tiffany in a little bit different light today, where we're not working together, but we're talking, we're interviewing, we're chatting with her and stuff like that. But first and very most importantly is, Tiffany, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm awesome, Jeff.
I knew it was coming.
Totally awesome. You know, that's my catchphrase. That's what I say. So I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here.
Well, yeah, we're really excited to have you. And I know Jeff gave you a little bit of an introduction, but I want you just to think about when people say, hey, Tiff, what do you do? Can you give us kind of a more in-depth look at what you do?
Yeah. So it's funny, when Jeff was talking about me and what I do, there are a lot of things I've done and a lot of things I do. I kind of like to have my hands in a million different things at the same time. And actually, this past summer, we were at a conference together, all three of us. And on the way back from the conference, I was in Milwaukee trying to catch a plane to Chicago. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but the plane was delayed and they said, here's a bus ticket, get on a bus to Chicago. And it was all chaos. So I'm on the bus to Chicago and we're doing the whole getting to know you with the people around us. And somebody says, so what do you do? And this was shortly after I made the transition from full-time teacher to part-time teacher, part-time what we do at Teach Better. And I really didn't know how to describe what I did. And I said, I'm an ed consultant. And the guy's face just kind of fell and he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, no, wait. that doesn't even come close to saying what I do, because I travel, I teach teachers, I teach students, I talk about amazing educators doing amazing things. I speak, I write, I share. I love everything about what I do. And there's really not a single word that can describe how I see myself in my role as an educator right now, because there's so many different things I'm doing.
I love that story, Tiffany, because we've talked about that a lot, and we've had conversations about sort of that question and how do you answer that stuff. And I love seeing sort of the growth that you've really started owning what you do, and the fact that you're not an ed consultant, you're a teacher of teachers, you're a motivator, you're an inspiration, you're someone who works to reach more students via the power of working with more teachers and helping everyone support everyone and grow and stuff. So I love that story. It's a great one. I also love the fact that I was with you when we were rushing to the airport, and then I found out while I'm sitting in the traffic on the road that you're going to take on a bus. I'm not even moving in my car, and I'm like, they're putting you on a bus because you're not going to make it to the airport on time. But you got home.
Ridiculous.
You got there. Well, you didn't get home. You got to where you needed to get, which was actually training teachers. So that was awesome. Yeah. So that's a good story. So lots of great stories. Speaking of stories, we all know that I love to tell stories. I tell a lot of stories. Sometimes you can't get me to shut up. And probably one of the most common, and you guys can probably attest to that, is my stories of times that I've failed and times that I've messed up and mistakes I've made and what I've learned from them, then I'm always saying how I'm very fortunate to have failed as much as I have. And while I didn't enjoy most of those failures when they were occurring, I've always taken something away from it, and not necessarily the day after or a week after, sometimes years and years later that I look back and realize what that is. But I'd love to have you, and we've had these conversations, so I'm excited about this, but can you tell us about a time that you failed and kind of take us there with you? What was the failure? What happened? How did you feel with it? And then how did you overcome that failure, and what did you take away from it?
This is such a hard question because I have failed so many times in my life in so many different ways, and I'm sure that pretty much anybody you talk to will have a similar response at first. I've failed a lot, especially anybody who's reflective about themselves. But as I'm thinking about this, I'm going to go way back. So I've been teaching for 10 years now, which is mind blowing. But way back to my very first year of teaching, I actually came in halfway through the school year, and the teacher before me was leaving education altogether. She was going into corporate training, making a boatload of money. And so I was coming into a class halfway through, which, if teachers out there know how interesting that can be. But it was actually going really well with students. I was excited about the interactions I was having with students, the relationships I was building. I was teaching science, which is wicked cool to teach because science is awesome. And so it's going really well. Couple months in, I'm sitting in a staff meeting. And my story of failure doesn't really have much to do with the students I was teaching in my classroom, but it has to do with the people that I was teaching down the hall from. So we're in a staff meeting, and I'm sure any teacher out there can relate to dictates and mandates being brought down the pipeline, or new initiatives that we have to do, some new way we have to track data or whatever. And I honestly cannot even remember what it was at the time that the district was having us do. But I knew that a lot of people weren't very happy with it. So we're in this staff meeting and we're talking about this new thing we have to do. And I'm there, a little 23-year-old brand new teacher who's been in the school for a couple months and honestly looks like she's still 17. And I had been doing this tracking or whatever they were asking us to do for a couple weeks, and it was going really well, and I was seeing a lot of positive results from it. And I'm in the room where everybody's talking about how terrible it is, and I decide to speak up. And so I speak up and I say, I actually think this is a really great idea. And here's how I'm doing it in my classroom, and I would be glad to help any of you guys figure it out. That didn't go well. A lot of the veteran teachers in the room immediately shut down and turned off about it. And at the time, I was really upset because of how they reacted to what I had said. But as the years have gone by, I've seen that in a completely different way. It wasn't a failure of them being open to the idea or a failure of them reacting to me. It was a failure of myself presenting an idea in a way that people could chew on, a way that people could accept and understand. And it's funny that I spent a good 3 or 4 years seeing it as these other people were the failures. And it's only as I've gotten more in the role of working with teachers and training teachers that I've realized that it was really an epic fail for me. And it has taught me so much as I've gone forward and worked with teachers, presented at conferences. It's taught me a lot about how you need to approach a situation when people are uncomfortable. And we do it all the time for our students. We look at where our students are at and what their needs are, what they're comfortable with. And I feel like I'm pretty good, and a lot of teachers are pretty good at kind of reading their audience that way when it's an audience of students. But it's something that I didn't read in my audience of peers, in my audience of coworkers. And it's just really changed the way that I approach any conversation I have with educators.
So let me ask you, Tiff, because I know there are people listening that are thinking, I've been there, I've done that, and then I've regretted speaking up. You know, everybody says I should speak up, and then I did that, and I got these stares. So reflecting back on that and where you are now, and what you've learned, how you look at it differently, how would you have handled that differently? Like what would be the better approach for someone who's listening and maybe has been in that situation for that?
Well, first, if you're in a room full of people who are very upset and complaining about something, don't always stand up and sing its praises in front of everyone. um, y- the biggest thing that you need when you want to affect change in other educators in the education world is you have to have trust. Um, you have to build these relationships where other people see you as one of them, see you as like in the trenches fighting with them and understanding where they're at. They have to trust you before they'll ever be able to hear what you're saying. We talk all the time about relationships, and how we need to form these positive relationships with our students in order to set them up for success in learning. Well, you have to build the relationships with the other adults around you. And when I was my most recent job, I worked with third, fourth, and fifth grade students, but I also did a lot of work with teachers and collaborating with them. And I really learned a lot from that first experience, my first year teaching. And I devoted so much time and so much energy to just talking with my colleagues, chatting with them. How's it going? How's life? For months and months and months before I ever brought up anything about, hey, have you thought about trying this? And it's really about the approach, because if you approach it as, hey, all you all are crazy, this thing is awesome and you should do it, you're not going to get anybody to hear a word you're saying. But if you approach it as, hey, I know you and I know that you have what's best in your heart for students and you are struggling with this concept, I've tried this. Do you want to give it a shot? Or have you thought about this? It's the relationship that has to come first. And I didn't understand that my first year teaching.
Well, and that really goes back to, I mean, the philosophy of how we talk to our colleagues goes back how we lead our classrooms. You know, when you're going back to Rita Pearson, who had that TED talk that said students don't learn from people they don't like, or that was her overall message. I mean, unfortunately, collaborating with colleagues is the same way. So being able to build that mutual respect first, and then dive into being reflective and growing together. I mean, that's how we build our classrooms. That's how we build our relationships, and that's really how everything in our world is built around. So it's great advice.
Well, and it's so funny, Ray, too. Like this is maybe going to sound boastful, but I've always been really, really good at doing that with students. My classroom has always been the one that students come back to or stay over lunch in my classroom because they just want to hang out and talk and have this conversation. And so for it to have taken me a good 4 or 5 years of my teaching career to put together the fact that I had to have that same kind of approach with my colleagues is crazy. Like why couldn't I have connected those dots earlier? But I'm just grateful that I did eventually, because it's really made a difference in how much I can collaborate with other people.
Love it. So now let's flip it around. Now let's talk about a success you've had, and we know you've had a lot, but let's talk about it. It can be big, it can be small, whatever it is. But walk us through what was it that happened? Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from
This is hard too, guys.
that?
Anybody who knows me knows that I am a very reflective person and frequently a perfectionist and hypercritical of myself. So being able to pinpoint moments where I consider myself to be successful is interesting. Okay, so here goes. Last year, this is kind of in the same vein as the last question, talking about collaborating with colleagues. Last year, I had a coworker who was she didn't have a lot of skills when it came to technology. And she was a bit of a traditional teacher. And she was very well meaning and she wanted to do what's best for kids, but she just didn't really know how. And in contrast to what I did 10 years ago, I spent the entire year just having conversations with her, casual conversations, and showing her, hey, look at this cool tech tool. You said that you want to collect data more easily. Well, let's look at Google Forms. Or can I show you this really cool thing I did in my class where we used Khan Academy for blah, 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 blah. And so all year, just building her up and helping her see that she could be successful using whatever tech tool. Because I kind of have the reputation at school of being the tech guru, the techie person. And then you all also know that I'm kind of obsessed with mastery learning, right? Obviously, we work with mastery learning all the time.
Yep.
And so another thing I like to do is help introduce teachers to mastery learning. Well, if I had come in day one with this teacher and said, hey, you should use mastery learning and integrate tech into everything because it's amazing, that would have just exploded in a fiery ball of fail. But after we had spent 6 months, kind of going through this cool tech tool stuff, and I say, hey, do you want to try out this mastery learning thing? She's like, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I can handle that. That seems really overwhelming to me. And so we built a grid together and we created this mastery learning unit together. And honestly, I did probably 90% of it. But she loved it and she implemented it. And then she started creating her own and just needed a little bit of input from me. And now she's really using grids and using mastery learning in her classroom on a regular basis. So that success wasn't like a single moment or a single day. It's something that was built over months and months and months of relationship building and persistence and giving of myself and my materials and what I understood. And then to see the greatest success for me is seeing a teacher feel successful and knowing that I helped get them part of the way there. Because there's nothing more rewarding than a teacher who believes I can do this. And look at me, I'm going to go do it and impact thousands and thousands of kids' lives through this change. So that's where I count my successes now.
Tiff, a lot of your answers so far have dealt with relationships, really impacting and helping your colleagues and really other educators. And truly, that's been something really exciting for me too. When I think about education, early on in my education career, it was really my focus was my students. My focus was creating really dynamic lessons. And now I get to have those two focuses in addition to also working with other teachers, being able to grow the network that I've been able to grow, connecting with teachers or really just growing and working with teachers in that collaborative space. It's so incredible how impactful that is in our community right now. And it really gets me excited for then what education has to bring in the future. You have teachers that are not only focusing on their students now, but getting really rich PD from social media sites and, podcasts and, everything else going on. So can I ask you, outside of the small bits that you've shared of building those relationships, what's really getting you excited about education?
Everything. I feel like there is this really interesting phenomenon happening right now in education. And it's this energy and this bubbling and this building that I don't know if other people feel it or see it, but I feel it and I see it. And I see it when I'm on Twitter connecting with teachers who are, for the first time, expanding their professional learning network outside of the four walls of their building. I feel it when I'm at a conference and I see teachers collaborating, connecting, and saying, hey, here's my email address, email me, and we'll do a Skype classroom together. It's this momentum and this building wave of energy. And I just feel that it's going to crash over us into an opportunity for us to really see transformative change happening in education soon. Like it's there, and my fingers tingle when I think about it, because we have these people we have educators, teachers, administration, policymakers who are all in this huge global network, right? Because we're connected digitally in a way that we've never been able to be. And we have that happening. And then on the flip side, but in a parallel path, we have students who are so intimately connected digitally and globally, and they see what's happening in other schools and other classrooms. They see on YouTube amazing things that other students get to do. And so this building pressure is coming both from students who are saying, hey, I deserve education that is engaging and amazing and makes me passionate about something. And then it's coming too from educators who say, holy moly, there's so much out there and so much that we can do together. And so I just feel like this tsunami of sorts is coming together, and it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome, guys. And I'm so excited that I am here. It almost feels like, this might be a silly analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. When the Gutenberg press, let's go way back in time. I don't know what year, but I should know that. But long time ago, the Gutenberg press came along, and all of a sudden books transformed from something that belonged to these very select individuals to something that belonged to humanity, right? And I feel like we're at this moment where learning and thinking and growing and reflecting and teaching is not something that belongs to a select few. Because teachers, you've heard me say this before, guys. I say it all the time. We are not content deliverers anymore. That is not the job of a teacher. The job of a teacher is to show students how to find and access and interpret and pull together information to create something new. And so it's this transformative moment in education history, like the Gutenberg press was for communication. I feel like we are there, and it's just going to explode into something that nobody could expect. And I can't wait to see where we are 5 years from now.
Early on in your description of what got you excited outside of connecting as a network, it was also, you talked about your connections with teachers, having them email you or being able to have a Google Hangout and really connect with them. I really love that because you're always advocating, asking people to reach out to you because you're always being so helpful, which I know that a lot of your answers have really shown that. And that's something I really admire about you as an educator that I obviously am connected with, and you're a huge part of my network, but being able to be so open and wanting to collaborate, that really gets me fired up. And the teachers that need that most that I'm seeing right now are those newer teachers, the ones that are, their first year in, or maybe it's their second year, and they're just trying to get their feet on the ground and really try and do as much as possible for their students, right? Do you remember your first year?
Oh, golly.
Right? Like, I just remember trying to run full force into a brick wall and hope that it all worked out. And so as I'm thinking about, the opportunities you've had to collaborate with colleagues, obviously in a variety of different years that they've been teaching, try and focus in on those early new teachers, the ones that are either starting their first job or maybe they're a few years in. What advice do they need right now with the way education's going to really have not only a successful year, but a successful career impacting students?
Whew. I love new teachers. I really do. I think they are a very exciting group of people because they are at the cusp. And I find frequently new teachers haven't learned as many bad habits sometimes as older teachers have. They're fresh, they are brand new, and they're about to get hit by a hurricane. That is the first year of teaching. And it's going to shake them to their core in ways that they never imagined were possible. And so first of all, the first thing I would say to new teachers, and I've said it to teachers on Twitter, I've said it to teachers I've met, I say, you're going to survive, but it won't feel like you're going to survive. Every teacher that exists right now has made it through their first year of teaching. You will get there, and it will be painful, and it will be hard, and it will be stressful, and it will be overwhelming. But a year from now, you will have gotten through your first year of teaching. So you're going to survive. It'll be okay. The second thing I would say is don't ever lose your passion. You're going to have way too much paperwork to do and piles of papers that tower over you that you have to grade. And you're going to have somebody who gives you a textbook and says, on this day, you have to teach this lesson, and this is how we've always done it. But if you're in education, you're not in education to get a book and be told exactly how to teach every day. And if you are, I'm sorry, this is going to be blunt, but get out. Because we need people in education who are going to craft what education will become. So as a new teacher, if you're going in and you're passionate and you're fired up and you have all these lesson ideas and you walk in and they say, here's your textbook, here's your curriculum, here's the pacing guide. don't lose who you are and what you believe in as a teacher. It is possible to take any textbook, any pacing guide, and turn it into something that can become engaging and amazing for your students and for yourself. So don't lose that fire in the barrage of you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to teach here in this school. Because that passion is what is going to bring education further and forward.
That's such a huge thing, and that's a life lesson too, not just in education, just in life alone. But I mean, there's so many things, and you touched on like the paperwork and the potential of the politics, and we've always done it this way, so this is how we do it, and everything. And then you add in all the stress and headaches and confusion and ups and downs and challenges that come in with just dealing with 20, 30 kids in your classroom as well. Tie that all together, and the thing that got you into teaching, that brought you to this industry, which is that passion to have an impact on lives, can get squashed really quickly. And
so easy.
We we work with teachers all over the country, and we hear that where they've just been beat down, and it just doesn't have to take 15, 20 years to get that way. It can take 1 or 2 or 3, right? And so I think that focus of don't lose your passion. That's absolutely golden advice. And if you're listening, you're a teacher of any year, but especially if you're that early on, I hope you heard the emphasis Tiffany put on that. Don't lose yourself. Don't lose that passion and why you're there. So that was awesome, Tiffany. I'm going to use your word of awesome on that one.
And be willing to fight for what you believe. That I just have to add that in there too, because don't lose your passion, right? But also be willing to say to administration or to a colleague in a way that's not going to get you fired, but be willing to say, I don't believe this is right for kids, and here's why, and back up your answers and push the envelope. I can say that I've been in teaching for 10 years, but as a first-year teacher, you have every right to do that as well. So speak your mind and show people why you believe what you believe.
I love it. All right. Ray, are you ready for this? I know you're probably extra nervous because of being Tiffany tonight. So are you okay?
Are you kidding, Jeff? I already have my stopwatch in hand. I'm
oh my
so
gosh,
ready.
Are you going to stop me?
No, there's 15 seconds on the clock. You cannot go over. Good luck. Go. No.
Oh my
gosh. All right. So Tiff, I think you're familiar with what we're doing here. It's 6 questions, 15 seconds or less to answer them. Honestly, I think we probably got, let's see what this is 14 episodes. I think probably 11 of the episodes we've hit this. We've been impressed.
Oh my
gosh. I have faith in you. Now you need to have faith and belief in yourself.
Okay,
so here we go. All right. What is one ed tech tool that you cannot live without?
Screencasting.
What book are you reading right now, or what is one book that you're reading right now?
A whole bunch of them. Run Like a Pirate is one I'm reading. I also have The Power of Starting Something Stupid.
Nice.
You gave me that?
Both excellent books. Who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
Everyone. Go out there and follow every educator you can possibly find. Just
awesome.
Do it.
Give me one that is a must. Specific.
Oh, golly. Anyone on the Teach Better team, Dave Burgess, anybody on the Burgess team, they're all amazing. I can't give you one. I'm sorry. I can't.
I say
Impossible.
one, she gives me 16. All right. Best YouTube channel for educators, or we like to do, you can do YouTube channel or blog website for educators.
I mean, obviously you should check out the Teach Better one, but besides that, I love the TEDx videos.
Yes. TEDx
I mean,
education.
Anything you can find on TED just will blow your mind and change your thinking.
Awesome. What is one daily, weekly, or monthly routine every educator should get into?
I'm terrible at taking my own advice, but take time for yourself and rest.
And what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh. Don't give up. You can do it.
Simple, but freaking powerful. I love it. Don't give up. That was awesome. You did all right.
Did I do okay?
You did all right. Yes. You're all right by me.
That was great advice.
That was stressful.
Well, Tiff, my next question is not stressful, and it's really, really important. So I know that you have shared so much information now, and you continue to share so much information day in, day out on all your social media networks. And I want to make sure that our listeners know how they can connect with you, because I don't mean to speak for you, but You are so approachable, always eager to collaborate with teachers and always just wanting to share, that I want them to feel like they can reach out to you. So how do people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to get in contact with me because I love talking to educators, and so many people don't reach out to me. Like we were at a conference and somebody recognized me from Twitter and they didn't come and talk to me, which is silly. You have to reach out. Anywho, so Twitter is really one of the best ways to get in touch with me, and I am at Techie Teach Ott, TECHIE Teach OTT. So Techie Teach Ott. I'm on Instagram too, but Twitter is really a better way to approach me. It's the same handle on Instagram. You can email me, tiffany@thegridmethod.com, and our Facebook, we have a Facebook group called the Teach Better Team, which you should definitely check out because I'm on there active all the time, sharing ideas and resources and a whole slew of other things.
Awesome. And as you guys already know, you can get all the links to everything we've talked about in the episode with Tiffany tonight, all the books she references, people to follow, all that type of stuff over at teachbetter.com, as well as those really important links for connecting with Tiffany, which will be over there. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any other episodes of Teach Better Talk. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we would really appreciate that as well. Tiffany, it was a blast having you on. We get to chat and talk more with you more than some, but it's still a lot of fun to be able to set aside time to just say, okay, we're just going to chat with Tiffany tonight. And we both know how busy you are, like for real. So we really appreciate your time. Truly, truly do. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. It was fun to talk about some different kinds of things than we normally talk about. I liked it. Thank you so much.
I love it. All right, guys. Until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.